Hello everyone. In this lecture, I am going to deal with the first chapter of class 11, the living world. Living world is so wonderful. Such a wide variety of living beings present on earth. And there are many, and they are living in almost every habitat, such as the mountain, forest, water, aquatic, on land, everywhere. There are several characteristics of living beings which differentiate them from the non-living things, and in this first lecture, from the beginning, we are going to deal with them. So there are five characteristics of living beings, which are: first one is the cellular structure, second is the metabolism, third is growth, fourth reproduction, and fifth is the consciousness. You have must studied in the previous classes that all the living beings are composed of are made up of cellular structure. Cellular structure. So let note down here. Today I am dealing with living world. And also the characteristics of living beings. What are they? Very first one, cellular structure. Second is metabolism. Third one is growth. Fourth one is reproduction. And at last, fifth one is consciousness. You have might studied in the previous classes that all the living beings are made up of cellular structures. Their body are composed of millions and billions of cells. So let us discuss the first characteristic, the cellular structure. Every living beings are made up of cells. As you all know that the cells are the reason behind the activities performed by every living being, and the growth which was shown by every living organism is also due to the presence of cellular level of organizations in every living beings. That's why they are known as the building blocks and the functional unit of life. So let us note down here. They are building blocks as well as functional unit. So now what we can say that any feature, when any feature is known to be defining, so we must say that any characteristics or any feature when unexceptionally present in all the living beings or we can say that in all the living things, and it is not be shown by any living non-living things. What I have said here, that any characteristic or any feature is known to be defining only when it fulfills two criteria. What are they? Let us discuss now. A feature is known to be defining when it fulfills two criteria: unexceptionally present in all living things and not shown by non-living things. When any feature is unexceptionally or widely shown by any living beings and it is not shown by non-living things, then we can say that a feature is known to be defining. If we talk about our first characteristic of all the living beings, that is the cellular structure, what you will tell about that is that defining or not. You have might studied in the earlier classes or previous classes that the cellular organization, cellular level of organization is present in all living beings, but the cellular structure of cells are not present in the living things. So the cellular structure it is present in all living organisms and it is totally absent in non-living. So we can say that the cellular structure is the feature, cellular structure is defining feature. Now we move on the next characteristics, which is metabolism. Now the word metabolism is arrived from a Greek word metabol. What is the meaning of metabol? Any changes, any conversion which are occurring is known as metabol. So note down here. Metabolism it is derived from Greek word which is metabol, which means change or conversion. Now, any changes, any conversion which may lead to anything is known as the chemical reaction. As you all know, every living beings are made up of, every living organisms is made up of chemicals, and the changes which are occurring inside our body is constituted to metabolism. Note down here, all living organisms are made up of the transformation all the changes, all the transformation which are occurring inside our body, occurring inside our body is constitute to metabolism. Is that clear? So now we move on into the next characteristic, which is growth. Before discussing our next characteristic, growth, I have to make that clear. Every living organisms are made up of two things, which is anabolisms and catabolisms, which is the constituent of our characteristic metabolism. So let us see now. Anabolism, other one is catabolism. These two components. Anabolisms lead to the substances, the simpler substances, into the complex substances. Simpler one, it breaks down into the complex one. In the catabolism, the complex substances goes into the breakdown and then converted into the simpler substances. Complex substances go through the breakdown occurs and converted into the simpler substances. Now, any example which tells us about anabolism and catabolism? So, one of the good example is photosynthesis. And if we talk about catabolism, the respiration. The other information which I am going to tell you about the anabolism and catabolism is that all the reactions, all the conversion or the breakdown of complex substances into simpler substances, and in the case of catabolism, the complex one into simpler one, are occurring inside or outside the cell. In the case of anabolism, all the reactions, these breakdown reactions, are occurring inside the cell. That's why they are known as in vivo reactions. In vivo, which means all these reactions are occurring inside cell. In the case of catabolism, they are known as in vitro, means outside the cell. Now, let us discuss about our third characteristic of human being is growth. So, what is growth? Growth is an irreversible process, irreversible increasement of any cell or any body organ, or we say about whole body of any living organisms. Yes, growth is the irreversible increasement of any cell, any tissue, any body organ, or the whole body. So note down here, growth is an irreversible increasement of the cell, organ, or whole body of living being. Yes. Now, if we talk about growth of plants, it is an unlimited growth. Yes, plants shows an unlimited growth, which means that it occurs throughout their life cycle. But in the case of animals, they are stuck to the some certain period of their life. It means that they show the limited growth in their life. Let us note down here. Plants and animals. Plant shows unlimited growth. And animals shows limited growth, which means it occurs throughout their life span. And in the case of animals, it occurs up to certain age. Now, as we have studied before this, there are two constituents of metabolisms which is responsible for the growth of any living organism. What are they? Anabolisms and catabolism. Here I denote anabolism as A and catabolism as C. As you all know, there can be only possible three conditions in which anabolism can be greater than catabolism, and there is also a chance of anabolisms can be equal to the catabolism, and the third, catabolism is greater than anabolism. So as I have told you that anabolism is an synthesizing reaction and catabolism is an breakdown reaction. So here the synthesizing is more than breakdown, that's why there is an positive growth. If the amount of anabolism, the reactions, the synthesizing is occurring more than breakdown reaction, it means that occurring more than the catabolism, then any organism can show positive growth. In the case where synthesizing and breakdown both are equal, then there is no growth. And in the third case, if catabolism, the means breakdown, is occurring more than the anabolism, more than the synthesizing reaction, then the growth shown by the living organisms is negative growth. So, what we can say about growth of non-living things? Is that present in non-living things or not? So, let us differentiate growth in living and in non-living. In the case of living, the growth occurs internally. It occurs inside of the cell. As you might have studied in the previous classes about the growth of an living organisms, which means that the cells of an organisms make new cells from the older one. It means that first of all, the cell of any organisms increases their size and then it is converted into the new cells, after which the growth is seen by any organisms. So, in the case of living beings, living organisms, it occurs internally. And in non-living things, the growth occurs externally. Yes. So, what is the case here? Let's say this is the human cell. This is the cell of a living being. So, as you all know, the growth occurs inside the cell. So, this cell started to increasing its size internally and it increases its surface area, and that's how the growth occurs in every living organisms. Now if we talk about the non-living things, how it's going to happen. Let's say this is a mountain. As you all know, in the surface of a mountain there are present thousands of trees in the surface of mountain. So every trees and plants on the surface of mountain grows, and the growth is shown externally. Yes, growth by mountain shown externally. Now, as the constituents or the components present on the surface of the mountain increases, the overall size of mountain also increases. That's why the growth is shown externally on the living things. Now, if we talk about reproduction, our fourth characteristic of living beings. So, what is reproduction? You might have studied in the 10th class that reproduction is the process of formation of offspring, which may lead to new individual which have may less or more similar features to its parent. Yes, it is the fourth reproduction. It is the process of formation of offspring which may have less or more feature